Welcome to this Florida Department of Transportation training. Demographic analysis data is part of a video series providing guidance for sociocultural effects evaluations for transportation projects. The department has produced 3 videos to assist practitioners in performing a project-level demographic analysis. The first video discusses the important role of the demographic analysis results in project environmental evaluations. This video explores data sources and data sets for the analysis, and the third video lays out the steps to performing the analysis. These videos and others covering all aspects of sociocultural effects evaluations are available at this web address. This URL and others referenced in this video will appear again at the end of the video. We start off in this video with a review of the primary data sources and data sets used in demographic analysis. You will get a refresher on the geographic units at which the U.S. Census Bureau data are reported. Other data sources, including field review of the project area and public involvement, will be discussed, and you will learn about the key data subjects that help portray the community in a project area. And finally, I will point out some helpful online tools for your next demographic analysis. The primary sources of demographic data in the United States are produced by the U.S. Census Bureau. These include the United States Census and the American Community Survey. To supplement the Census Bureau products, we can also explore data from other sources to help us learn what we need to know about our subject community. The U.S. Census is a historic snapshot of our nation that is conducted every 10 years. It provides basic population characteristics at all geographic levels of the census across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. As of 2010, the U.S. Census data includes only 100% counts, unlike earlier censuses which provided sample-based estimates about the ways people live. The most current U.S. Census, the 2010 census, is organized in 3 datasets. The first is the demographic profile, which contains summary population and housing information in a single table. Summary File 1 includes all of the compiled data in 330 detailed tables. Summary File 2 contains cross-tabulations of Summary File 1 data by race and Hispanic or Latino ethnicity, as well as by American Indian and Alaska Native tribes. Summary File 2 has 71 tables. The 2010 census reports data about individuals including total population, race, ethnicity, age, and sex. Information about how the population is organized in households, families, and group quarters is provided, along with housing-related information about total units, occupancy status, and habitation by owner or renter. Another U.S. Census Bureau product relied on heavily for demographic analysis is the American Community Survey. Unlike the census, the ACS provides demographic data throughout the decade. The first year of the ACS was 2005, and the latest data set is for 2014. ACS data is based on random sampling from approximately 250,000 addresses each month across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. Detailed data about how people live is similar to the U.S. Census Summary File 3 that was discontinued in 2010. Because the ACS is based on sample sizes, the data are estimates, not 100% counts. Block group level data is the lowest census geography published in the ACS. Data at the smaller block level is not available. Data on more than 40 topics is reported in the ACS, including general demographic characteristics like reported in the U.S. Census, as well as detailed information on social characteristics, housing, economic conditions, and financial status. The products of the continuous surveying effort are the 1, 3, and 5-year ACS datasets. Monthly sampling is conducted in geographic areas that meet certain population thresholds. The ACS data includes a margin of error reflecting the sample size. When the U.S. Census Bureau determines that a sample for a particular location is sufficient for a reasonably reliable estimate, the data is released. The ACS 1-year estimates are produced annually for areas with a population of 65,000 or greater. While this data is the most current, it's based on only 1 year of data, affording a higher margin of error than for the 3- and 5-year datasets. Areas with a population of 20,000 or more are covered in the ACS 3-year estimates. This data represents the middle ground relative to data accuracy and currency. The ACS 5-year estimates are available for all areas at most geographic levels, including block groups. Block group data is not available in the 1- and 3-year estimates. The ACS 5-year estimates, although the least current of the datasets, will have lower margins of error and greater reliability. Greater confidence levels and availability in the finer-grained block group level make the ACS 5-year estimates our go-to dataset for a project demographic analysis. This slide shows the geographic coverage of areas published in the ACS 1 and 3-year estimates in Florida. Survey information is provided for yellow and green areas on the map. As mentioned earlier, all areas of the map are published for the ACS 5-year estimates. Now on to our next topic, the U.S. Census Bureau Census Geographies. The standard hierarchy of census geographic entities is shown in this graphic. The census block is the geographic unit at the lowest level. The nation is the highest level. Notice the geographies along the center column. These have a nested relationship, meaning the higher level geographies are made up of lower level ones that do not cross higher level geography boundaries. This slide shows lower level census geographies that are commonly used in demographic analysis. All are nested with the exception of place and county subdivision, which could overlap boundaries of nested units above or below. For the purposes of a project-level analysis, we would expect that the total population of all the blocks nested in a block group would be the same as the population of that block group. Generally, the scale of the lower census geographies corresponds to population size. On the map, notice how the census tracts, shown in dark red lines, and the block groups in green, are much larger on the urban periphery than in the city center. Where the population density is higher, we can expect the lower level census geographies to be smaller than would occur where densities are lower. I'll spend a minute or so on the characteristics of the lower level census geographies, starting with the census tract. The target population for a tract is 4,000 persons. However, the population can range anywhere from 1,000 to 8,000 persons. Census tracts are drawn around relatively homogeneous populations. Due to its larger size, both geographic and population related, the census tract is less favorable for a project-level demographic analysis than the lowest level geographies. Tract data is typically not fine-grained enough for an accurate depiction of the community proximate to the project. The census block group averages around 1,500 persons, but the population can range between 300 and 3,000. The block group is the lowest geography where both U.S. Census data and ACS data can be obtained. The target population for the census block is 100 persons. Block boundaries usually coincide with physical features like streets and legal boundaries such as platted blocks. ACS data is not available for blocks, and income data from the census is not reported for blocks to protect privacy. We know that census data is collected only once per decade, which means the census-based block data is dated most of the time. However, the block data is useful for identifying minority populations for an environmental justice analysis. Based on this comparison of tracts, block groups, and blocks, we can see why the block group is the preferred census geography for a project demographic analysis. The block group is the geography of least size, having the most Census Bureau datasets, as well as the most current datasets. A project demographic analysis also uses the county-level census geography as a reference community for the project area. Recall that counties are one of the nested geographies in the census geography hierarchy. By comparing the project area to a reference community, we can see how the areas are similar or different. For example, are the block groups in the project area wealthier or poorer on average than the county as a whole? How do these conditions correlate to the percentage of housing units with no vehicle available at both levels? Putting the data into context like this gives the information more meaning. We rely on other data sources to improve the accuracy, currency, and comprehensiveness of our demographic analysis. Besides the Census Bureau, other federal agencies are sources of demographic data. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reports the location of retailers accepting Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program payments. Concentrations of these retailers could indicate nearby low-income neighborhoods. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development maintains locational data on low-income housing such as Section 8 housing. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services establishes poverty guidelines. This information, in combination with the ACS income data, is used to determine low-income populations. The Social Security Administration collects and reports spatial data on the distribution of disability benefits. The National Center for Education Statistics compiles local data about race, ethnicity, and income. National advocacy organizations such as the National Council of La Raza, 500 Nations by state-recognized tribes, and the National Urban League may have local or regional offices with information on local minority populations. Local governments are a good source of information about communities within their jurisdiction. For example, counties collect and maintain land use and land value data that can tell us about where people live and work and about the community's economic status. Municipalities will know who visits on a regular basis and the predominant languages spoken. MPOs and TPOs collect data about socioeconomic conditions and transit-dependent populations. Local agencies, such as those providing social services in the area, may collect data on special needs populations. Local business organizations, such as the Chamber of Commerce or a Minority Business Association, will know about different businesses in the area and generally who their employees and patrons are. Combining our desktop analysis with observations from the field is a best practice. Field review gives us much more information from which to verify the census data. So put aside a day for a windshield survey of the project area and an opportunity to chat with locals. You will gain a better understanding of the area and, by virtue of that, a greater level of confidence in your analysis results. And take advantage of project public involvement activities to learn about the community and verify the data you have compiled. Ask if any population group is missing or seems undercounted in the data. Now let's look at the primary data subjects needed to inform our demographic analysis. For a project evaluation, we will need data telling us about individuals, groupings of individuals such as households, and housing. Data about race and Hispanic or Latino origin indicates the presence of a minority population in the project area. This information is integral to identifying potential environmental justice issues associated with the project. The census includes race categories for single races alone and two or more races. The data also indicates the population that is Hispanic or Latino of any race and the population that is not of this origin. Categories marked by an asterisk are included in the definition for minority. You can find this information in the American Community Survey and U.S. Census data under the noted table ID numbers. Supplemental sources like those mentioned in the previous section of the video may also be of help. For the remaining data subjects covered in the coming slides, the red sun symbol will point out where the information can be found. In the latest ACS data, approximately 10% of the state's population reported having a disability. Persons with disabilities are likely to have special transportation needs and may need special accommodations relative to project communications. Disability data was provided in the 2000 U.S. Census for the population aged 16 to 64, but not at all in the 2010 census. The ACS began reporting disability data for the population aged 20 to 64 in the 2013 dataset. Supplemental data may be available from the transit service provider operating in the project area or the Social Security Administration. The level of education in a community is an indicator of literacy, economic status, and commuting behavior. In Florida, the educational attainment of approximately 14% of the population is 12th grade or less with no diploma. If low literacy levels in the community are suspected, the design of project communications and opportunities for input should take that into consideration. Local adult education programs may have additional data to inform this determination. Data on English language proficiency is used to identify the population that speaks English less than very well. An individual with a limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English meets the definition of limited English proficient, or LEP. About 12% of year-round residents in Florida fall under this category. The presence of an LEP or linguistically isolated population may call for special accommodations to enable meaningful access to project information and involvement in the project. In addition to the ACS data, the school district and local social service agencies may be of assistance in identifying LEP populations. Sources within the community can also help in identifying the particular languages and dialects of non-English speakers in the project area. The ACS reports data on language spoken at home by ability to speak English for a long list of languages. However, the data is only available for census tracts and higher geographies. At the lower block group level, the data is summarized under 4 broad categories: Spanish, other Indo-European, Asian and Pacific Island, and other languages. As such, the block group data will not tell us which language to use for project communications. Income and poverty data indicate economic conditions in a project area, including the presence of low-income households. For an environmental justice analysis, the ACS household income data, used in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services annual poverty guidelines for a family of 4, determines which households are low income. ACS data on households receiving SNAP assistance is another indicator of low-income households, but keep in mind that not all low-income households qualify for these benefits. U.S. housing and urban development data on public housing and low-rent apartment locations and USDA SNAP retailer locations are other good resources for identifying low-income neighborhoods. Concentrations of lower-value housing and higher proportions of renter-occupied units could indicate the presence of low-income households. Median housing value provides an indication of neighborhood stability and overall conditions in a community. Of particular interest are median values below the countywide median. The County Property Appraiser's Office is a good source of supplemental data about housing types, residency status, and values. The length of time the population has lived in the community is an indicator of social cohesion. Studies show that long-term residency translates to higher level of social interaction and sense of belonging in a community. The ACS data shows the population in occupied units by the year the householder moved into the unit. The data is segregated by owner and renter occupied units, which is another indicator of community cohesion. Local realtors and neighborhood organizations would be another source for this type of information. In Florida, over 7% of occupied housing units have no vehicle available. We look at the ACS data on vehicle availability by occupied housing unit to help in identifying the transportation disadvantaged population in the project area. For persons without reliable access to a motor vehicle, alternative modes of transportation are critical to economic opportunity and other quality of life factors. The local transit agency operating in the project area will be a source of additional information on the transportation disadvantaged population. Now let's look at some tools to assist with the demographic analysis. First up is the Sociocultural Data Report, a convenient package of aggregated demographic, land use, and other data for the 500-foot project buffer area. Reviewing the project SDR is a good starting place for a project demographic analysis. SDRs are available for PD&E projects on the department's environmental screening tool, including the tool's public information site. Further instructions are provided in the noted video on the department's SCE evaluation process webpage. A companion document to the Sociocultural Data Report is the Project GIS Analysis Results, also available via FDOT's Environmental Screening Tool with access authorization. This report provides census and ACS data by block and block group for project buffer areas ranging from 100 feet up to 1 mile. To help define your analysis area, review the census block groups surrounding the project using the U.S. Census Bureau Tiger Web Map Viewer. Census geographies are shown along with their census identification code. GIS shapefiles can be downloaded from the tool to support data mapping. Census Bureau datasets for all of Florida can be downloaded from the Florida Geographic Data Library using the Metadata Explorer. Downloading of the U.S. Census Bureau data is also supported on the American FactFinder website. You can also view more than 1,000 standard pre-tabulated data tables on the site using the guided or advanced search functions. The link at the bottom of the video is to an FHWA EJ Tools webinar, which includes an informative live demo of American FactFinder. To view this segment, fast forward to minute 54 of the webinar video. Subjects included in the survey is a very useful page on the U.S. Census Bureau website. It lists all of the ACS data subjects and provides direct links to related data tables for each subject in American FactFinder. When you click on a link, it takes you to this view on the American FactFinder. From here, you choose a data set, such as the 2014 5-year estimates, and the geography you're looking for. Then it shows all of the related data tables for that subject, year, and geography. For users who want to customize their analysis of the census data, the ACS Public Use Microdata Samples, or PUMS files, provide untabulated population and housing unit records with individual response information. You can access the PUMS file from the American FactFinder. The link shown is to a webinar on working with the ACS PUMS files, including how to access the data and its geographic availability. DataFerret is a data analysis and extraction tool that works with the ACS PUMS files. This U.S. Census Bureau tool facilitates customized statistical analysis and creation of summary data and tables to fit narrowly defined research questions. An unlimited array of customized spreadsheets, graphs, and maps are possible using DataFerret. It can also retrieve and analyze data for 13 other data surveys and programs, including the American Housing Survey and data collected by the National Center for Health Statistics and Centers for Disease Control. The link shown points to a recorded webinar providing a basic introduction to DataFerret. EJ Screen is a mapping and screening tool that combines high-resolution data to produce environmental and demographic indicators and environmental justice indexes. The user can generate a standard report for a customized area of interest. The report includes comparisons to the state, EPA region, and nation to show if a combination of environmental and demographic indicators is greater than usual. This tool is helpful for the initial investigation of a project area to learn about the location of minority populations, low-income populations, and potential environmental quality issues. If a project is within Broward, Miami-Dade, or Palm Beach County, you can use the Transportation Outreach Planner tool to generate customized demographic reports. Demographic information is also available for select communities. The customized demographic report shows the data by area of interest, county, and state. The On the Map tool from the U.S. Census Bureau provides an easy-to-use interface for creating, viewing, printing, and downloading workforce-related maps, profiles, and underlying data at block group resolution. An interactive map viewer displays where workers are employed and where they live within a user-defined area of interest. Companion reports provide information on age, sex, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, earnings, industry distributions, and housing. The project is supported by the U.S. Department of Labor. The racial dot map shows race data at the block level from the 2010 U.S. Census. The map depicts a dot for each person in the U.S. according to race. The Location Affordability Index is a product of the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department and the U.S. Department of Transportation as part of the Sustainable Communities Partnership. The index estimates the percentage of household income dedicated to the combined cost of housing and transportation in a given location. The results can give us a more complete understanding of the costs of living and household cost burden in the project area. The last tool I'll mention is the 2011 Language Mapper. This U.S. Census Bureau tool provides a long list of languages spoken at home for viewing on the map. Viewing options include data on the total population that speaks a particular language or the subset of that population that speaks English less than very well. One dot on the map represents approximately 10 persons. Although the data is shown at the county level, the resolution is good enough to get an idea of what languages are spoken in the general project area. This concludes the training on demographic analysis data. If you have any questions or suggestions, please contact Dr. Rusty Ennemoser, State Public Involvement and Community Resources Coordinator. Links to resources referenced in this video will be shown on the following slides. Thank you for viewing this production of the Florida Department of Transportation.